Welcome back to the adventure. Today we're talking about speedrunning Windows 95. Speedrunning is the practice of attempting to beat a video game in as short a time as possible. There are many categories for speedrunning, such as 100% completion, tool-assisted, glitchless, and beating the game as fast as possible. Speedrunning Windows 95, on the other hand, is something else, to say the least. The rules for speedrunning Windows 95 are pretty straightforward. You have to use the original floppy disk and CD-ROM images. Time starts depending on what hypervisor you're using. VirtualBox, for example, begins when the title bar says running. Time ends when the desktop is fully rendered, with the Welcome to Windows 95 dialog box and taskbar. Currently, there are no restrictions on hardware, other than the hard drive can't have any partitions on it already. Let's watch the current world record speedrun for Windows 95, then we'll break it down afterwards. Here we go. So now to break it down. We see the timer started and then VirtualBox is launched. The speedrunner is using VirtualBox version 6.1. So far, everything looks perfectly normal. We get starting Windows 95 at the top, followed by the information for the CD-ROM driver loading. Then we are immediately thrown into fdisk. As I understand the rules, you have to use the original floppy disk image, which implies that things like the config sys and autoexec bat files cannot be edited. So this behavior would not be possible with the original floppy disk image. It had to be modified in some way because we're not getting a prompt that something is typed into. It's just throwing us into fdisk. I couldn't find a single frame where the prompt was shown. I do have to say the menuing is very well done in this run. Presumably, if you know what keys you need to press and what order you need to press them in, you can move through these screens very quickly. Then things like blindfolded menuing exist. Now that the hard drive is partitioned, the virtual machine is restarted. This time on boot, we do see the prompt, and format C: is entered. However, it does not appear to be typed by a human. The text appears all at once, which can be done through the autoexec bat file. Note that the size of the virtual hard disk is 200 megabytes. This is smart because it's just as large as it needs to be. So things like formatting the drive will take the least time possible. For the first time, we are seeing something being typed in, and it's to launch the setup for Windows 95. I want to pause here for a moment and explain that there are switches for most executable files in DOS, including the Windows 95 setup. It is unclear why the runner did not use any switches. Some clearly valuable ones are skipping scan disk and the end user license agreement. Even though most of these things complete in fractions of a second, they can be skipped, like the checking available disk space. In speedrunning, fractions of a second matter.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Throughout the run, they are using the keyboard to navigate the menus. I was curious how the license key was going to be handled. Using a key that can be easily memorized seems to make the most sense, short of using an answer file, that is. For the user information, they enter a single letter. Then we get into the components to be installed, and they're deselecting everything, so the install will take the least amount of time possible. Excellent use of keyboard navigation. It's much faster than individual mouse clicks. While the files are being copied to the hard drive, the speedrunner mounts the virtual disk image for the Windows 95 CPU fix. That way, when the system is rebooted, they can select to boot from the floppy disk, install the patch, and then reboot the virtual machine. So the installation for Windows 95 is finishing. Very fast selections for the location and time zone. And done. The Welcome to Windows 95 dialog box and taskbar are fully rendered. The installation took 1 minute and 28 seconds to complete. Did you catch any mistakes that were made during the run? Or do you have any suggestions on how to improve the run? Let me know down in the comments. We may attempt to do our own speedrun to see if it's possible to beat this world record. Thanks for stopping by. See you next video.